Are you an idiot? Well, you're in good company. There are about 8 billion idiots on this planet, and that number grows every day. Don't be the guy or gal that says, "I'm not an idiot," because that makes you the biggest idiot of all. We all have our moments of brilliance and our moments of idiocy. Embrace it, folks. Don't be ashamed. Without those idiot moments, we would never be able to appreciate our brilliance. Welcome to I Love My Idiot, a podcast about the idiots we love, the idiots we loathe, and the idiots we can't seem to avoid. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Visit our website at ilovemyidiot.com.
Welcome to another episode of I Love My Idiot.
I'm your equal host, Clyde November.
And I'm Rosie November, and we're so happy to be podcasting again. I mean, it's been a couple of weeks.
It's been 3 weeks by the time this will post. And you know what? People have been worried about us.
Yeah, we're alive, everybody. It's all right. It's all right. We did have a quarantine scare with the coronavirus.
We did. It was a little bit freaky.
It was a little uncomfortable. And then on top of that, we've just had a lot of projects that have come up, and it's prevented us from being able to podcast. So here we are.
Still alive.
Still alive.
Rosie.
No COVID to be seen.
Yes, Lynette actually did reach out to us to make sure that we were doing okay, and I really appreciated that because, you know, do you ever have that feeling like, if I just disappeared from this world, would anybody even notice?
I'm glad Mama Lynette is like looking out for us.
I know.
You know, I mean, I think she actually cares more than our real parents.
I know. She sent me a very nice message. Let me know that she was doing well as well.
Oh, good.
But it was very thoughtful. Made me feel really good. Boosted my spirits.
Well, John Thomas texted me and asked me how we were doing as well. So we have two friends from different sides of the country that are missing us when we're not around.
That's right.
It's nice to see that we have good friends.
So you mentioned your COVID scare. Did you want to go into that at all?
Yeah, sure. So some asshole came into an area that I happened to be in. And I had about an hour with this person, and
fairly close proximity. Correct?
Fairly close proximity.
Not like whisper distance, but
right. I mean, I wouldn't say that we were making out or anything like that.
I sure hope
not. But we were in the same room, and a few days later, I got a call and said, "Hey, just so you know, I have COVID." And I said, well, we're not friends anymore. Just kidding. And I went and got tested. So shockingly, she got her test back in like 24 or 48 hours. I went to the same exact place she went, and it took 7 days to get my results. So it's kind of
Well, when we
iffy.
went to that place, we were in line for 4 hours waiting for our turn for you to get tested.
And that was awkward because we had all the kids in the car and you. I told you guys to stay home, but you thought this would be a quick in and out, and then we were going to go get dinner at like drive-through and maybe some ice cream through drive-through, but it
Rosie,
was not
quick. I give you a hard time, but you are the love of my life. If you are going to get tested for something that could potentially be your doom, I want to be there, right?
Okay.
Especially because if you had it, I knew I probably had it as well. So
yeah. I mean, I understand why you wanted to be there, but I think it was unnecessary to make the children wait for 4 hours with us.
Yes.
But yeah. No, it was fine. I didn't have it, everybody. It's all good.
Yeah, but we still quarantined like responsible adults.
We did. And now we've really started taking the mask wearing seriously. Like, I think before we would just make an excuse. Oh, it's in the car. I'm just going to skip it or whatever. Like, we have not skipped wearing a mask going anywhere in public since. Because it really did kind of shake me a little bit. Especially seeing how sick that girl got. I thought, it's just not really worth it.
Well, and the other hard thing is we didn't find out that you were exposed to someone who had it until about 3 days later. So we had to start going through our phone book and calling every single person we had contact with.
I felt like I was seriously calling every person I'd had sex with to tell them I had chlamydia, you know?
You mean chlamydia again?
Stop.
Okay, can I tell the chlamydia story?
We can tell the chlamydia story. Also a false scare.
Yeah. Okay. This
no,
goes
but first
back.
I want to finish I want to finish the COVID story before you get all sidetracked.
Okay, don't let me forget because I've got a chlamydia story, people.
Anyhow, so I call your mom first, and I'm like, Mom, I might have COVID. And your mom's like, what?
Yeah, she's thinking.
She's like mad.
Yeah, she's like, thanks a lot, Rosie. You just killed me.
Exactly.
Because mom's like what,
I felt
71,
I had given
72?
her a death sentence. Like, it was the worst call I've ever made in my life. And then her response was even worse than what I had
what were you hoping
expected
for?
It was gonna. I expected her to be like,
yeah,
well,
it's fine. If I die, I die.
No, I expected her to be like, well, let's just see what the test results come back as. She instantly was like, oh, you definitely have it then.
And honestly, like, sometimes I think the news hypes it up so much that, you don't really know what to believe. Sometimes you hear like, oh, it lives on surfaces for 4 weeks or whatever.
Right.
That's an exaggeration, but you
and now
hear
they're like,
all this
it doesn't
crap.
even live on surfaces.
Yeah.
I mean, the messaging is all over the place.
Lately,
every time I go to your dad's house and your mom's house, they're like, this new thing we learned about COVID, and it's just,
like, Mom,
that's
Dad,
all they have time to do.
Turn off the news.
Exactly.
Depending on what station you're on, it's telling you different stuff.
I'm like, the much healthier thing than you staying in your house is going outside. Like, go outside and sit in some sunlight, Anyhow, so yeah.
So chlamydia. All right. If you want to test how strong your relationship is,
just throw a little chlamydia in there.
This is the relationship strength test, and the good news is Rosie and I passed.
We did.
Okay. So
we were scared though for a minute.
We're about 2 years into our marriage. Rosie is pregnant with our second child, and she goes in for one of her, regular checkups. And anyways, they draw some blood on her. And once we were done with that test, we got in the car and we drove down to Salt Lake City to visit Claudia. And while we're there, we get a phone call from Rosie's doctor that says, Rosie, you have chlamydia. And Rosie looks at me and is like, what?
I'm like, it has to be you. It can be nobody else.
And Rosie's sitting there like, well, I haven't slept with anyone. And then she looks at me and I'm like, I haven't slept with someone.
Yeah.
This is the part that made me mad, though. You said to your doctor, well, does that mean Clyde has it? And she said, well, if you have it, your husband clearly has it. Not only that, he's probably the one that gave it to you.
Right.
Right? And it's like on speakerphone. I'm like, hey, wait a minute here. So,
oh my gosh.
I said, this has to be a false positive.
Yeah.
And then you brought that up and she said, oh, with this test, there's no such thing as false positives.
Yeah.
Well, I lived in the doghouse for about the next 24 hours. No, I really didn't.
No, but you were beating yourself up. Like, you were counting down every person you'd ever been with. You're like, did I use protection?
Yeah,
did
but you had been tested, with our first child. Right. So it was like...
And then she talked about how it could potentially live dormant for a while and all this. And she gave us all this scare tactics.
I was upset, right? So
I took the medicine, you did not. And we made an appointment with your doctor because you're like, right. I'm not going to just believe this person. And plus,
Dr. Vance. The one time the guy's actually come through for me.
He did come through that time.
Because let me tell you what Dr. Vance did. So I called my insurance because I was trying to figure out, I knew there was an antibodies test to where you could find out if you ever had it, right? Because if I took a P test, I could find out if I currently had it, but I wanted to know, have I ever had it? So I called my insurance and I found out that the P test is covered no matter what.
Right.
The antibodies test is only covered at a doctor's recommendation. So if I ask for it, it's not covered. But if the doctor recommends it, then it's covered. Mm-hmm. So I'm sitting here trying to figure out, how am I going to play this up so the doctor brings it up?
Yeah.
So I walk in, sit down, and I say, sir, I have never cheated on my wife. But there's another doctor that gave her a false positive. First, I said, is it possible to have a false positive for chlamydia?
Yeah.
And he said, oh, yeah, you can have a false positive for anything.
Right.
And so I said, there's a doctor that's accusing me, so I need to get the pee test to prove I don't have it. And he says, shit, Clyde, screw the pee test. We're doing the antibodies test, and we're going to prove that girl wrong. And
if I remember correctly, he was so pissed at that other doctor because he knew of that doctor, and he's like, oh, I've had others in my seat.
A professional rivalry between these two.
He's like, I'm not only going to give you the antibody test, you're getting the pee test too, and we're going to see if you have it now or if you have ever had it.
And I came back clean.
That's right.
And then you went in and got the same antibody test.
It was the one and only time Dr. Vance ever came through for me as well.
Yes.
And he gave me the pee test and the antibody test. And I had never had
proved
chlamydia.
That it was a false positive.
Exactly.
Which your doctor to this day still is convinced that I gave you chlamydia. Because when we called her on it, she said, guys, I've just never heard of a false positive for this test.
The really interesting thing is that she tested me again. And she's like, this is going to be at no charge. We just want to make sure that our batch is good of these tests. Because they have they buy them in big packs of 300 or something. And so she tests me again. She gets another false positive. And she's like, this must just be a bad batch. She looked back at the records. Every woman that she had tested that week all came back positive for chlamydia. So they decided to take those tests back to the manufacturer, and turned out there was probably something that had contaminated them.
Someone with chlamydia was testing all of these.
But the nice thing about it is she was so afraid of anything happening.
Oh, she knew I was angry, right?
That everything was covered after that point.
The thing that made me angry was the statement that there's no such thing as false positives, and therefore your husband's probably the one that gave it to you. That made me so mad. I was like, come on.
Right.
All the girls I've cheated on you with were clean. Just kidding.
Oh my gosh.
No, I am a faithful man. You know how loyal I am, right?
Yeah. I mean,
loyal or lazy. It's
one of the two. I mean, a girl's really going to have to try to get you to switch over to somebody else. Cause
it sounds like a lot of work having a...
Who has time for that, really?
I've known random people over the years that try to have something on the side, and I always just pity them. I'm like, dude, I'm like, this sounds exhausting, dude.
How do you love that many people at one time?
Seriously.
I know, but people do it, I guess. I don't know.
So, good news, we are COVID and chlamydia free.
If you really think about it, though, COVID and chlamydia are not that different of creatures.
Sure.
Both ruin your life for a short period of time.
Only a short period of time.
Actually, chlamydia is probably better than COVID because at least you can take an antibiotic and get rid of it.
I know, and people are dying from COVID.
Exactly. So. I guarantee you COVID takes more lives than chlamydia.
Oh, yeah.
Anyhow, I bet you all never thought you'd hear about that on Clyde and Rosie's podcast.
For about 20 weeks, I've actually been trying to figure out how to get that story in.
It made it. It
finally came up. So
it did. It sure did. So we've had a lot of interesting things happen over the last couple of weeks, but probably the most interesting thing is we had baby ducks in our backyard.
Yes, we did. In fact, I don't know how they got in our backyard.
Right.
From what I understand, baby ducks don't fly, right?
Mm-hmm.
And their mothers can't carry them while they fly. At least not that I've ever seen. But in our backyard, we had a mother and 5 little ducklings.
Mm-hmm. They were so cute.
They were cute. And then all of a sudden, the dog went after the mother. The mother just abandoned her young.
Yeah, and she never came back.
No. So all the ducklings scattered. They took off running. So we send the children out after them, which little Rex, I was impressed at how well he could catch.
Oh, he's
those
amazing.
Things. I know. He's a speedy little guy. I've never thought of him as overly fast, but now I'm realizing he has a quick twitch.
Oh, yeah. He's
movement,
got a little quickness to him.
Oh, yeah. He was snatching up those baby ducks like no other. Although 2 of them escaped our yard. They got out through little cracks in the fence.
Yeah.
But we caught 3 of them, and we really didn't know what to do with them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But Rosie's like, we got to buy them food. We better start taking care of these until their mother comes back. Hopefully the mother comes back. And I'm like, well, what if the mother doesn't come back? And she's like, then they're ours.
No, I wasn't. You did that, not me.
I
was
felt
like,
bad for the babies.
I told you need to call somebody because I think it's illegal to keep regular ducks.
Wild ducklings,
ducks
if you catch them, it is illegal to keep them. So
so you got to get rid of them.
Once
and
I saw
that,
I was like, okay, we're getting rid of them.
You didn't, but you were like, but they're so cute. You're trying to throw this on me?
I know.
This was all your fault.
They were cute, and I got suckered in the moment. They were like little...
Yeah, and you freaking named them. You never name a wild animal that you're going to have to like take back to its primary home.
Chirps, squeaks, and ducks.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Only because the kids turned you down on Huey, Dewey, and Louie.
I know. I was like, Huey, Dewey, Louie. And they're like, those aren't even names. I'm like, dude, DuckTales.
DuckTales. They are names.
I know. Now I got to get on Disney Plus and see if that's on there.
Yeah, you got to educate those children.
I know. They said they have no interest. I was trying to describe the show, and they're like, that sounds dumb.
Anyways, so we learned from PETA, actually, that... if you have baby ducks, you should probably call like a humane society or somebody to like get them and, return them to their natural or whatever. Well, I didn't really believe PETA, so I was like, okay, call your dad.
Yeah, my dad knows everything.
If anybody's going to know, it's going to be your dad. So you call your dad and you're like, hey, Dad, so I got these baby ducks in my yard. What do I do? And he's like, oh, that happened all the time when we lived there. So what you do is
what's funny is if that happened all the time, he never involved us kids because I never remember baby ducks.
Because look at what happened with our kids when you involved them.
Oh, yeah.
It was the worst experience. So his dad goes, yeah, what you do is you just take them back to the pond, which is, maybe a half mile from our house.
Not even.
He's like, you find a mama duck with like a baby or two and you put them with that duck. So then what happened, Clyde?
So we walked down there, me and the 3 children, and I was hoping to, find a duck with a baby. And here's one swimming around with one baby. The problem is that one baby was a little bit older than the current ducks I had.
Right.
So I was like, this clearly isn't the mom. I was kind of hoping the mom would have reunited with her 2 other children somehow that were on the loose in our neighbors' yards. But that one clearly wasn't the mother. And our children were just like, there it is. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, as long as the children are fooled, I can do this, and I'm not going to traumatize anyone.
Oh, my gosh.
So I put the ducks down right next to the pond, and 2 of the ducks take off into the pond and start swimming toward this mother duck, while the 3rd duck takes off the other direction on foot, runs across the street, almost gets run over by a car. And then little Rex and James are chasing them. He runs up onto the golf course and he's running on the green, and there's like 3 golfers there, and our children just run onto the green. They're like, oh my gosh, running around. I'm pretty sure one of them accidentally kicked one of their golf balls too. And I was seriously embarrassed. I was like, oh my gosh, like those golfers are probably thinking like, kid, leave the ducks alone.
Exactly. I know.
Right. But they finally caught him. They brought this duck back, and we kind of scooted it into the water, and it swam off trying to follow its siblings. So they swim out to the middle of the pond where this mother is with its 1 duckling. And when these 3 new ducklings come up to that one, the mother did something horrible. It tried to drown those ducklings. Like, it would grab them and hold them under the water, and they would just squirm and squirm and squirm and finally like come up like free. And so I'm sitting there like, oh my gosh, like, we got to get out of here before my children see this happen.
They all saw what happened.
Oh, but they were like, is she giving them a bath? And I'm like, yeah, that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, guys, let's go. And they're like, no, we want to watch. I'm like, nope, we
got places to be.
Like, it's getting close to dinner time. Let's get going. So we took off. The good news is Rosie and I later that night drove by the pond. We stopped, went and looked. That mother with the 1 duckling was by herself, and our 3 little ducklings found a different mother that wasn't trying to drown them to follow around. So that was the good news. Happy ending to that story.
Yes, it all worked out.
It kind of worked out because there were later consequences to that story.
Right.
The consequences were that our children started begging for pet ducks.
Yeah, I don't deal well with our children crying. I know.
I
It's
have
a
no
weakness
problem
of mine.
with children crying.
I don't like it when they're heartbroken. Like, there's a difference between I'm crying because I want something that's irrational or
like a duck.
irreasonable. Stop. And there's a whole different thing when they're crying because their heart is broken. So, anyways, the kids were struggling because at the end of the day, it was your fault. You talked for like 3 hours about how we were going to set up a pen for these guys and we were going to get them a warm light and we were going to do all this stuff to try and like raise up these ducks until I told you it's illegal to do that. And then at that point, the kids had already gotten attached to the idea that they owned ducks. They had named ducks. They'd already bought food for the ducks. They fed ducks from their hand. Like, it just was way more involved than just, I found some ducks and I set them free.
So Rosie gets on her phone and finds a farm
Yes.
that claims to have ducks, and you can just show up and pick up some ducklings.
$5 a duck.
Yeah. So she tells me she's going to go do this, and I'm like practically begging her not to. I'm like, please don't. Like, the kids will get over it. And she's like, no. Although Rosie always does this thing where she's like, I just want to look.
Right.
As if there's like to leave this option, like I'll look and not get. Right?
Sure.
I never buy it, but I'm always like, all right, whatever. And here's the honest
Yeah, but
truth, Rosie.
part of
Can
you
I tell you
wanted
the
it.
honest truth? No, I didn't necessarily want it, but here's the honest truth. I'm trying to be less of my dad. It's been a recent goal of mine because my
Really?
dad, a lot of times, like every dream that anyone in the family had, my dad was always the negative voice that was like, no, we're not doing that. And I don't know, like doing some self-reflection, I've recently started to realize like, man, I do what my dad did a lot when I was little that used to drive me crazy. And not just to the kids, but to my mom. Like one time my mom, we were on the side of the road at a gas station on a family vacation, and there was a Native American lady that was selling cactuses. And my mom wanted to buy this little cactus that was like $15. And my dad just like gave her the hardest time about it and was just like, what are we going to do with cactuses? And then just didn't let her buy the cactus.
Sounds like the last 3 years of my life.
Hold that thought. And then my mom would come home and she cried the whole way home because she was
Over
like
a $15 cactus.
It wasn't about the cactus. It was about the fact that she was unhappy and a cactus might have given her a small amount of joy.
Sure.
So then when she gets home, what does my dad do? Well, now he's like, well, I got to make it up to her. So all of a sudden, my mom became a cactus collector and we had like 6 or 7 cactuses by the time I graduated from high school.
At least the man tried to make it right.
No, and like that's the thing. I was always like, my dad would always come through in the end. And
Right.
like I feel like I'm the same. I always come through in the end. I just drag my feet to get there. And the more I've like thought about this and realized this connection between me and my dad, and I've watched how that's aged with my dad, and honestly, it doesn't age well.
Right.
So I'm like, dude, I got to stop being like that. I got to stop just being the downer of the group. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got to start being more excited about life and less like, okay, I'll cave or
Right.
whatever, you know? So, Rosie, I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm trying my best. I've noticed this and I've picked up on this pattern. I've spent the last like 6 months really trying to step out from, break the cycle, break
Sure.
the chain. So they go out to get their ducks.
Yeah. We go to the farm. And it's like a really cool farm, guys. This is a free range farm. There are no cages, including for the pigs. The pigs, the ducks, the chickens, the horses, the cows, geese. They have goats. The larger livestock were kept in a separate area from all of the waterfowl and the chickens.
Except the pig.
Except the pig.
Right?
He got to roam. They had one potbelly pig that got to roam anywhere he wanted to go. He basically had free range of the entire...
Between chicks and ducklings, how many of those were just running around this farm, if you had to guess?
I bet there were at least 200 of each.
Wow.
It was insane. Like, you could hardly walk without stepping on a little chick. I kept telling the kids, like, okay, guys, we're looking for ducks. They're the bigger of this group because they all live together. The thing with ducks and chicks is they get cold really easy, especially when they're little. And so oftentimes they will just try to get in groups and huddle together.
Oh, it's like March of the Penguins where they're all trying to like fight their way to the middle.
You know, because they're always trying to find warmth no matter what. And so everybody was just sort of together and Anyhow, so I show the kids, okay, this is what ducks look like, you know. And the only person on this farm that I have seen at this point is a 9-year-old boy named Brian. He knows everything there is to know about ducks, and he's there to collect my money.
He was like Bubba from Forrest Gump. I know everything there is to know about the shrimping business.
I wouldn't.
Except with ducks.
Yeah. This kid was very educated. He was an, what is it, FHA or?
4-H or something?
Oh, yeah, 4-H. I don't know where I got FHA.
Yeah, I don't know.
FHA, isn't that a home loan?
I think so. He was a mortgage lender.
He provided lending. No, so anyways, he was in 4-H and he'd actually shown some chickens. So he showed me like his prize chicken. He's like, best layer in the state of Colorado right here, you know, and he like told me how to bathe them and stuff. And I'm like, dude, I didn't even know you could bathe chickens, you know, and he like oils them up and stuff, makes them look all cute for their, I guess, parade of chickens. I don't know what they do at 4-H. So anyways, I'm like, cool, Brian, all I care about is I need 3 ducks. Like, this is what I'm here for. Show me the ducks, you know? And so basically it was the craziest thing because it was like, you just go and you pick up a chicken, like or ducks, like you just pick them up. Like, you have to catch them, basically. It's like, if you catch them, they're yours kind of thing, you know?
You can't say, Brian, go get me some ducks?
Yeah, no. Like, that's just not how it worked at this farm. Like, Brian's only job is to tell you about the ducks and the chickens and to collect your money.
So from what I understand, like with a chick, it's hard to tell whether they're male or female. Right. Was he able to distinguish?
Yeah, I mean, he said he could, but he's like, sometimes it's kind of hard. So if one of them turns out to be a male, you can always bring it back later. So anyhow.
That's like the Home Depot return
yes,
policy.
Exactly. They have a great return policy, let me tell you. So of course, Rex, with his little quick wit and his quick hands and his quick little movements, catches his duck right away. And he's like, oh, this is my duck. His name's Runner. He's awesome. You know.
He's already got a name.
I'm like, cool, buddy. Good job. And so then Brian had given us a box and we put that duck in the box and we're like, cool, 1 duck down, go ahead, James. And I'm just watching him chase around like he cannot catch him. So finally James comes up to Rex and is like, will you please just catch me a duck?
Poor kid.
I know. And so then Rex was able to catch 2 ducks and then James picked which one he wanted, which was a yellow duck. Honestly, it's the cutest. I swear it's the cutest duck in the whole bunch.
It's like, it looks a little bit like the Tweety bird, but it looks like your typical cartoon duck where they're just yellow and...
Oh, he's adorable. I love him so much. Pretty soon I hear little Rosie from the corner because I sort of started paying attention to the boys, but I could see her from like, you know, in your peripheral. And I hear her and she goes, I caught my duck! His name is Potato. And I'm like, cool! I haven't even seen the duck yet, you know? So I walk over to her and I look in her hands and I'm like, Rosie, that is a chicken. That is not a duck. And she goes, his name's Potato and he's mine. And I said, Brian? How much are the chicks? And he's like, they're $5. And I'm like, cool, we're going to take 2 ducks and a chick. And he's like, ma'am, I can't sell you just 1 chick. And I said,
ooh, what a salesman.
Why, Brian?
Playing hardball.
Why can't I not just buy 1 chick? And he's like, because you've already disclosed to me this is your first duck and chick experience. Therefore, you
see, Rosie, you always overspeak too early. You do that all the time where you tell people the truth.
We're going to be a backyard duck farmer. This is great, you know? And Brian's like, you can't just have 1 chick. It is a death sentence. This 9-year-old literally talks to me like he's 55 years old. Like he must have been learning from his grandpa or something. And I'm like, okay, Brian, well, how many chicks do I have to be able to keep Potato? Because at this point, little Rosie's already putting him in the car. Like, Potato is ours already. And I'm like, well, how many chicks do we have to have for Potato to live? Like, I don't want a death sentence here. So Brian's like, you have to have at least 3 chicks for them to be well adapted and survive.
To survive.
Yeah. And he's like, and I would recommend not getting the ducks if you're going to get the chicks. He's like, the ducks can sometimes, they're just big and they can sometimes like trample over your chicks and then they'll die.
You're like, listen here, Brian.
Like
little Rosie has a chick.
Yeah. So anyways, by this point, I'm having to get the kids back out of the car because they've already gotten in the car as happy as can be. Got me a duck, got me a duck, got me a chicken, And so I call them back out and I'm like, huddle up, November children. So we have a mission now. We need one more duck and we need 2 more chickens. Make it be so. So they go out, they catch what they want, and I pay Brian like $40.
Oh, but the story isn't done because then he tells you you're going to have a lot more eggs if you get a rooster.
Yeah.
Right?
And he says if you get a rooster, it'll protect the hens.
Yeah. So,
which is a flat out lie once I got home and researched. I feel like I got ripped off by Brian.
Brian
Although
had you.
Brian did give me the rooster for free.
Yeah.
Either they have a hard time selling the roosters or
yeah, because everyone wants eggs.
Yeah, like why would he tell me that story for me to get home and be like, dude, I got to return this rooster because it sounds like it's going to be a nightmare.
Rosie comes home. She pulls up this rooster and she's like, oh, this is our rooster. And it looks the same as the chicks. It's maybe a little bit bigger. But I said, what's wrong with his face? And then she looked at it. He had something called scissor beak where like the beak doesn't line up. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, well, whatever. And Rosie's like, I am not having scissor beak.
No.
She's like, no, we're taking this one back.
Right.
This time I came with them. So I did get the opportunity to see the farm. I did meet Brian.
Yes. Cool kid, right?
Cool kid. In fact, so we told the kids.
I kind of wanted to bring him home and be like, Brian, come check out our backyard and see if this is duck and chicken friendly.
Yeah.
I feel like the kid would have told us where to put the roost. Like, I think he would have told us everything we needed to know that had to go into our backyard chicken farm.
Sure. But little Rex pulls $10 out of his pocket and he's begging you, please, can I buy 2 more chicks?
And I didn't even know he had money on him.
Yeah. And you're like, all right, fine, whatever. Mm-hmm. So he's running around buying them, but he's bringing each chick to Brian. And I was impressed how much of an encyclopedia about chickens this guy was.
He knew the kind.
He instantly knew the breed. He could recite how many eggs per year they lay on average. He could recite the size they were going to be.
The color.
Oh my gosh. This kid was amazing. He was like, it was like Rain Man, except just with chickens.
Right.
He literally was Bubba, except
Bubba.
Not shrimp. I should also mention that when I was at home, I was, hanging out in the kitchen, doing some dishes when you came home from this whole excursion.
Yeah.
I don't know what to call it, but James was the first one to come walking in. And I was like, "Did you get some ducks?" And he's like, "Yep." And he was holding one and he goes, "Do you want to see my duck?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he walks over and shows me and I'm looking at this thing and then I'm like, "Wait, it's got a weird bill." In fact, its bill looks like a beak. And I was like, "I don't think that's a duck." And he's like, "I know, it's a chicken." I'm like, "What the?" It's like, "Oh my gosh, what did Rosie do to me?"
Yeah.
Rosie comes in and I'm like, "You got a chicken?" She's like, "I got 4 chickens and 3 ducks." I was like, "Oh my gosh." And then she said, "Oh, and we're going to need a chicken coop."
Yeah.
So,
So Clyde's been building a chicken coop.
I've been building a chicken coop, which if you need a refresher, go back and listen to episode 6 and hear about my skills. Although my chicken coop is coming together nicely.
It really is. We had a friend come over the first day and help, and that was great. And he actually let you borrow a power tool, which was pretty awesome.
Yes.
And then your dad came over the last couple of days to help with some stuff. Not as fun of experience, but still helpful.
Yeah. He did yell at one of our children pretty unfairly, and it really took me back to my childhood.
Oh, yeah.
My dad would give you an opportunity to do something with a tool that you've never seen used before, and then he would just scream at you for not knowing how to do it.
Right.
It was, I don't know. it's weird being in that situation as a grown-up, and I told him not to yell at my kid, but it did bring back some negative feelings where I was like, this is the actual reason I suck at tools. Because anytime my dad was doing tools, I didn't want to be around because it just meant you were going to get yelled at, you know?
Anyways, we get home, we have all these animals, and we learned chicks are mean to each other.
We learned harshly.
Yes.
We had some hard lessons ahead of us.
We've had a rough go. They've lived here, a week?
Not even. It's been 4 days.
4 to 5 days.
Day 1 was okay.
It was a good day.
Yep.
Everything seemed fine on day 1.
We were like, we are great chicken farmers. Yeah.
Everybody was happy.
Day 2, the kids are playing with them, but day 2 was the 4th of July.
Right.
So we had a friend that we were going to go see for the 4th of July. And when we got home that night, one of the chicks was dead. Yeah. And we didn't know.
Like, what happened?
Yeah, we didn't know what happened. It was just laying in the box with all the other chicks, and it was dead.
Kind of mushed a little.
Yeah.
And we're like, wonder what happened to him. He's kind of squished.
And I was like, maybe he got too cold in this room, and we have him in the bathroom with a heat lamp. And, you know, we're trying to keep him warm, and we just didn't know. And poor Rex, and it just happened to be the one that was Rex's chick.
Right.
He's the most sensitive of our children and the biggest animal lover, right? He is just bawling, you know, and I'm just like, it's okay, buddy. It's okay. We'll go get you another. We had no idea what happened, but, you know, we're like, whatever. So the next morning, we actually witnessed all the chicks gang up on another chick, a new chick, and just start stomping that thing to death.
And unfortunately for everybody, it was Potato.
Now, fortunately, we saw it. And in fact, Rex was the hero. He ran over and broke up the fight and lifted up this limp Potato. Yeah. And was like, Mom, Dad, Potato. Yeah. Rosie is instantly crying, Potato.
Yeah.
Right?
It was my favorite chick.
Oh, yeah.
He's the chick that made us get all the chicks, you know?
I know. And like, so Potato's laying there in Rex's hand, one wing like all cockeye, and then like legs pointing in like weird directions. It's like on its side, eyes closed, but still alive, beak kind of open. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And so Rex like hands him to me and he's like, Dad, I think you're going to have to kill him. I was like, whoa. Yeah. I was like, I don't kill things. I'm sorry. Like,
right. So then I told you, I said, just put him in a shoebox. We'll see how he does. I thought for sure the chick was going to be dead in like 10 minutes. Like, I didn't think.
Oh, yeah, I did too.
It wasn't really suffering. I mean, it looked kind of like had already gotten into like rigor mortis, you know? Yeah. And so I just thought, you know, I think he's just we'll just put him in a box, pretend like this isn't happening. Because you clearly can't take the hammer to him. So.
Oh, no. I don't.
So anyhow, like you put him in a box.
I don't know, Rosie. Like, here's the thing. Like, honestly, I would be a horrible farmer because I know I talk a big game on this podcast and everyone thinks I'm like a man's man. Yeah. But I can't kill things. I cannot bring harm to something. It like, I don't know. It like hurts me too bad. Right. I know. And so this chick is sitting there suffering. And like part of me was like, okay, the right thing to do right now is probably put it out of its misery. But I'm like looking at Rex, like, do you want to do it? He's like, come on, Dad, man up. I'm like, yeah, let's put him in the box. Rex like Mommy said.
Rex knows enough about animals that like he knows the good and the bad stuff. Like he's such an animal fan. Like he was always researching animals and stuff. And I think Rex knew that the chick was not going to survive. But Potato makes a recovery.
Yeah. So we put him in this shoebox and I just kind of set him aside. I keep calling her a him. It was a female, right? But so I set her aside and 2 hours goes by, right? I'm assuming Potato is dead at this point. So Rex goes over and opens the lid to the shoebox. And he's like, Potato's alive! And I come running over.
It's a miracle!
I am like so excited. Now, blind in one eye, like it had one eye gouged out and the other one could only half open. Its wings were like I mean, they were like covered in like chicken saliva or something because they were all crusty.
Oh, it was so sad and disgusting.
But the thing was like hopping around.
Yeah.
And it, like, I don't know. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, Rosie, this potato here is my new favorite chick. I love this chick. Such a fighter, but she did not make it through the night.
She did not make it.
So this little tiny uprise of the story then just crashes
right back down.
She didn't survive the night.
She did not survive. That brings us to today. And we lost another chick today.
Same cause. These chicks are violent.
They're being really mean to each other. And we've already been back out to the chicken farm twice. And I think if we go back, people are going to start thinking we're abusing chickens.
Yeah. They probably are already suspicious. You know, the good thing is that Brian has like 9 siblings.
Yeah.
So every time we're there, we deal with a different kid.
We have dealt with other kids now at this point. And honestly, looking at their situation, I think they just care about the $5. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But it's like really sad for our kids. And it's like made me regret getting the chickens.
Oh, yeah.
The ducks are thriving.
The ducks are doing great.
They are having the time of their lives. They are getting
I know.
bigger.
We bought a little kiddie pool.
They're happy.
Seriously, in like the 4 days, they've grown, and it's noticeable, right?
Yeah.
We get a kiddie pool. They go swimming in the pond. Then we put them in the grass. They run around.
They're so happy, and they're friendly. They never fight.
Yeah.
And then these chickens are just brutal.
Which I was Googling chickens. Now, you had some chickens when you were little, right?
Yeah,
Did you ever have chicks or?
No, because we got the eggs before they like turned into, we collected eggs daily.
So when you got your chickens, they were already adults.
Yeah.
You've mentioned like maybe we should just get adult chickens.
That's what I'm telling you. I'm telling you, if these chicks die, I really think we should go get like, maybe not adult, but like teenage chickens.
Yeah.
Like ones that can live outside on their own. Because I think part of the problem is that they're in too close of proximity. They're living in a Rubbermaid right now. We've now got them separated out into 4 separate Rubbermaids. And it's just becoming very difficult with these chicks.
It's taking up our whole house.
Yeah. And
we've had to buy multiple heat lamps
Seriously, now. I'm like, my house smells like Brian's farm.
No offense, Brian.
So it's like, I really regret buying the chicks. And now I understand why they were $5 a piece because I'm guessing that like you have a loss run on these chicks, you know? So anyways, it's been a pretty miserable experience all in all.
From what I've read online, which if you check my Google searches, it's all going to be about hens and ducks. Mm-hmm. But from what I've read online, hens in particular are brutal to each other because the term the pecking order actually comes from hens.
Yeah.
So hens will purposely try to fight over who's like the dominant female, which is really weird because initially I was like, I bet it's that rooster. That rooster is probably a jerk.
Right.
Which we named him Ned.
He's Ned.
I don't think it was the rooster. I think these hens are just...
These hens are brutal.
I know. And they're just little tiny babies. Well, because we completely
separated out the rooster.
Oh, yeah. He was our first suspect, so we removed him early, and then
what happened tonight to
dying.
Robin was 100% Stripes, Gilly, and Goldie's problem. Like, they murdered Robin tonight.
Oh, yeah. In cold blood.
I think Robin was actually in worse shape than Potato was. Like, I think we were like seconds away from them just ending her.
Oh, yeah.
And it's brutal the way they do it, man. They trap them in a corner. I can't even describe it.
And they get all the hens and they just like start
pouncing.
jabbing them with their beak.
It's really bad, man.
Oh.
I'm like over it with these chicks. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
I want to just go get adult chickens that have been living together a while.
I heard someone say once that if chickens were big enough, they would eat humans because they eat everything.
Oh, yeah.
Like people are like, oh, chickens would be like our biggest enemy if they were just a little bit bigger.
They eat everything. They're brutal.
They're brutal.
They look so cute, and you would think like, oh, like this is the most adorable thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But then you learn the truth, you know?
If you're wondering what happened to the T-Rex, it evolved into the chicken. Yeah, it's got that kind of mentality.
It's definitely got to be that. So anyways, we are farmers now.
Yes.
Long story short.
So one other thing that I think we should cover before we take off, July 3rd, was a big day for us. We got to watch Hamilton on Disney Plus.
We did.
Which was quite exciting. We sat down as an entire family and watched.
Right. I got bored like halfway through.
What? Rosie. Rosie hates musicals for some reason.
It's not my favorite.
Dude, here's the thing about Hamilton, though. When I first heard about Hamilton, I was like, that sounds stupid, right? Because I was like, I don't even like hip hop. And I don't. Or I didn't, right? I never did. But I kept hearing people say like, no, it's really cool. It's really cool. You got to check it out. So one day I got on YouTube and I just listened to one song and I was like, no, I'm a little intrigued. So I went and got the album, as you know, and this was a couple years ago, and I like listened to it, and I started telling you like, dude, you should check this out. This is really cool. And you kept saying, I don't even like that kind of music. And I'm like, I don't either, but it's growing on me, right?
Dude, you love it. You don't like word for word now.
Well, and that's the interesting thing. I've had different experiences with different albums or bands or whatever that help expand your horizons as to what kind of music you like. You know what I mean? Hip hop used to always just bug the snot out of me, but now I kind of appreciate it. I can see the talent in it, you know, the creativity and stuff. But I tell you what, ever since we watched that, you want to know what our kids are doing constantly?
Acting the Hamilton play.
No, it's one part. Da 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 da.
Oh yeah, the spitter.
Da 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 da. Yeah, the spitter. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Jonathan Groff. What a great performance.
What a great performer. I mean, he was the best part of that whole thing.
Yeah. I was reading about that spitting because I was like, dude, that's impressive that he could do that on command. Yeah. Apparently he spits every time he sings because he doesn't sweat.
Oh.
And so he gets like all of his liquid out through his mouth like a dog or something.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
I don't know. Crazy. I don't know whether that's true or not. But
dude, that's funny.
On Twitter, all these people are talking about if they sit in the front row for like other plays he's done, they've actually felt some of that spittle.
Well, we went and saw Jekyll and Hyde in theater, and that guy was a spitter too. And I was feeling like we were too close to the front. I swear I was spit on by that guy. Which is not good for you. I'm a germaphobe. So yeah, I don't enjoy a spitter, but he definitely was the best part of that play by just the songs that he sang. And it was just, he brought comic relief. And it was just really great. So we love Hamilton. It's awesome.
It is awesome. Our children loved it. James fell asleep through the second half. So he keeps asking me, when do I get to watch the second half? And I'm like, whenever you want. But I think he's really wanting to sit down with us and watch it. So do you have another round in you, Rosie?
I feel good with the one time I watched it. I feel like I can live the rest of my life knowing I saw it once.
Did you learn anything from watching it?
No.
You didn't?
No.
Oh.
You've already told me everything there is to know verbally.
I know, but I
didn't need to relearn it.
I had like an interesting takeaway, and I know the story. Like, it intrigued me enough to where I actually bought a biography on Alexander Hamilton and read because I wanted to kind of know the real backstory that kind of goes along with the play. But watching it this time, I had a big takeaway.
Yeah, what was it?
The big takeaway is that Alexander Hamilton was kind of a guy that had so much potential, and he kind of blew it all on his own, you know? Infidelity with his wife kind of set him off there. Ends up having a fight with John Adams, publishes a letter that kind of ruins his, standing in his political party. Yeah. I don't know. It was like a lot of his downfall was self-created. Yeah. So that was kind of my takeaway that I never really thought about prior to seeing that, but watching those actors perform it, I don't know. That was kind of my takeaway from that. So
it kind of reminds me that we do need to make an amendment to the podcast. So back in the Veterans Day episode,
Whoa. That was November. We're in July.
I know, but my mom's like way behind on the podcast. She recently called me and said that I got the story all wrong with my grandpa and the Army. And most of it was for comic relief, but it actually did cause my mom to stop listening to the podcast because she was so angry at me. So anyways, I would like to apologize and to make an amendment that my grandfather did serve in the military. he did serve in World War II, and he loved that part of his life. And he was actually buried in a veterans cemetery, and they did shoot guns for him.
He got the 21 gun salute.
He did get the 21 gun salute. So
nice.
Amended. And I only said that because it was funny. We were trying to be funny. I knew my grandpa served and loved his experience, but I was trying to be funny, and being funny sometimes can hurt people. So consider it amended. We don't apologize on the podcast.
But we do amend things.
Some people did think it was funny, but we do amend it, and I would like to amend it and just thank my grandfather for his service. And he was an incredible person, and he lived through a lot.
Hopefully Mom starts listening again.
I don't know. We'll see. I mean, she may never hear the amendment because she's pretty mad at me. Even though it was said in October, November, whatever. She just now got to it.
Can I say one last thing about the chicks? I am happy with the chicks, and let me tell you why. I could do without chicks, and it's been a lot of work building this chicken coop. Mm-hmm. Although it's been fun teaching our boys. You know, I let them play with the drill, something I never got the privilege of when I was their age. But watching you play with these ducks, it's brought a spark back. You know, it's brought a smile to your face. It's brought a joy in. And I know like your job is really hard and it like beats down on you and stuff, but it's been really fun watching you, you know?
Dude, and I love those little
I know,
ducks.
and it like brings me joy. And that's the kind of thing that I was talking about, where I'm like, I got to stop dragging my feet with stuff and just start being like, okay, well, if you want that, let's do it. And then just enjoy it. You know what I mean? Because I guarantee that if I was dragging my feet the whole time, you would not be experiencing the same joy with these, right?
Sure.
And instead you would be like, I don't know, trying to convince me that they were worth having or whatever, you know? Yeah. And so, Rosie, it's nothing I love more than seeing you happy.
Aw, thanks, Clyde.
Being married to me, it doesn't happen often.
Right, yeah.
But I'm trying to turn over a new leaf and be a better man. It's my
you and I are
mid-year
proof.
Resolution. And now we all have COVID.
You and I are proof that two people who are fundamentally the most different people you could ever put together can have the best relationship.
We could even survive chlamydia.
We could even survive.
Do you see how we cycled
chlamydia.
that back around? You would almost think we were professional podcasters and we knew what we were doing.
You almost would. Yeah, no, it's been a fun ride with you, and I hope we get to share many more years of having fun together, Clyde, because I think you're awesome. You're my best friend, and I really...
Still an idiot, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're totally an idiot.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, I just appreciate you.
You always have my back, Rosie.
I really do.
So I can always count on you to be there for me. Even when I'm being an idiot, you're going to have my back, and then later you'll be like, by the way, you were being an idiot there. But I still had your back, and I appreciate that from you. You got to have your idiots back.
You do.
You
really do.
I'm going to put that out there. One more thing for you, Rosie.
What is it? Clyde?
What do you call a bear that works at a strip club?
What?
A polar bear.
Oh my gosh, Clyde.
That's right.
That one is not appropriate for the fifth graders.
Oh, that one is just for the podcast.
Oh my gosh. I can't believe you snuck in another bear joke in there.
I know, and that's the final one. That's going to be the grand finale. I am done with bear jokes. I have about 15 more if you are interested.
No, I'm really not.
No, not you. I'm talking to the listener. You've made it perfectly clear you are not interested in my corny bear jokes.
Absolutely. Thank you again for listening to our podcast. We're so grateful to have such loyal listeners who love us, who reach out when we haven't been on for 3 weeks. It is a pleasure talking for you every single week.
Yeah, and keep spreading the word, and I hope you all had a happy 4th of July. I'm assuming most of you are American and celebrate.
Canada Day.
Yeah.
I mean, there's that too.
I think Canada Day is like in October or something.
It is?
Yeah. Their Independence Day? I don't know.
I thought they said Canada Day was like recent.
I don't know. Google it.
Okay, Google, when is Canada Day?
Canada Day was on Wednesday, July 1st, 2020.
Okay, Google, what do they celebrate on Canada Day?
According to Wikipedia, a federal statutory holiday, it celebrates the anniversary of Canadian Confederation, which occurred on July 1, 1867, with the passing of the Constitution Act 1867, where the 3 separate colonies of Canada, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick were united into a single dominion within the British Empire called Canada.
Yep.
And now they just learned something. You're welcome, folks. Okay, I realized as that was talking, I was thinking of Canadian Thanksgiving is somewhere in October, right?
Yes.
I never even thought about when Canada won their independence. Who even knew Canada was independent?
One of your best friends is Canadian, and we were just talking about Canada Day.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, did you guys celebrate Canada Day? And I'm like, heck yeah, I did. I always celebrate for you, buddy.
I thought that was a joke. Dude,
no, I was being 100% serious.
I will give you anything you want if you can sing even a line from the Canadian national anthem.
Does it go like this? Oh, Canada, our home and native land.
True patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise. Truth north strong and free. I probably messed that part up. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. I swear I heard you just say garden. Oh Canada,
we stand on guard for thee.
Okay, that was horrible. And we officially owe everyone in that country an apology. We meant that with like the best love for your country. Canada is awesome. One of the best men I've ever known was Canadian. He served with me in the United States Army.
Yeah.
But when him and I served in Iraq, he had dual citizenship.
Oh, yeah.
To where he was a Canadian citizen. His family moved to the United States. So when he joined the military, he actually had to go through all this red tape because they had to make sure he wasn't like a spy potentially, which I'm like, I don't think Canada is sending down spies. It's not like he's like Russian or Chinese or something like that, but you know, they had to do their due diligence.
And he's seriously the nicest guy on the planet.
Yeah. He was really like the first Canadian that I ever knew. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, is this how all Canadians are? But what was great is while we were over there, every time any Iraqi ever found out he was Canadian, they were all like, oh, Canada, good. And they would always say that.
Oh my gosh.
Canada, good. And we just were always like, dude.
What did they say about America?
Well, depends on what part of the country you were in. So this one time, there was a guy, an Iraqi police officer, who found out he was Canadian. And he said, oh, Canada, good. And then one of our friends, just to kind of like mess with him, he said, Canada, bad. And the guy like looked at him with this strange look. And then he said, Canada, good. So my friend again says, Canada, bad. Canada, good. Canada, bad. And all of a sudden the guy like takes his jacket off and he starts like shaking his shoulders off like he's getting ready. Like, okay, we're going to have to settle this the old fashioned way. And then the guy, like my friend was like, dude, I'm just kidding. Canada, good. We all like Canada. Everyone likes Canada. Apparently they don't have any enemies out there. Canada, good. It was hilarious.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
No, as far as what they said about the Americans, it really did depend on what part of the country you were in. But the one thing that was really funny is if you were in the north, which is where all the Kurdish people lived who were happy that Saddam Hussein was removed from power, every time someone would see you, they'd say, hey, mister, tell Mr. Bush thank you for me.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, okay. And I'm like, do you think that just because
him.
like we live in the same country, we're countrymen, We
Sure.
hang out. We run around in the same circles.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. You and Bush, you get beers together, right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah. We're crushing beers
You
all
go
the
fishing.
Whoa. Bush Senior, right? You're talking Bush Senior. I always thought he was the cooler Bush.
He is a good Bush.
But, yeah. Okay, that sounded weird. But yeah, so I've always been waiting to meet President Bush so I could pass that along, but I guess this is a public forum.
If any of you know President Bush,
exactly,
we'd like to thank you.
There's about 1,000 Iraqi children who have told me thank you. So
yeah. But now that I know Iraqi kids love him.
Yeah. Well, and it makes sense. Like, those people look at him as like a liberator,
Sure.
which I don't know if people realize that, but there are people in the world that think of George Bush as like, wow, he sent his American army over and liberated us. But anyways, well, we should wrap this up, Rosie. We're about an hour in.
Thank you to all of our listeners. We're so grateful that you listen to our podcast. It is a pleasure talking for you week after week. We love doing the podcast. We'll keep doing it as long as you're listening. Don't forget, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Check out our website at ilovemyidiot.com.
Don't forget to click like when you listen to our podcast on any of your favorite podcasting platforms, because it will tell you when a new episode is hit.
And don't forget to tell your idiot that you love them.
I love you, Clyde.
And thank you, President Bush. I love you too, Rosie.
I love my idiot.
I don't know where I got FHA.
Yeah, I don't know.
FHA, isn't that a home loan?
I think so. He was a mortgage lender.
He provided lending